behalf of the organizing committee and on behalf of the program committee to the research track, or rather the first international research conference of the Baltic Cybersecurity Innovation Forum, CyberBazaar. It is really a huge privilege to welcome you all here today. I think that innovations and research is one of the key topics which was highlighted today during the opening plenary session, and of course without the researchers, without the people from academia, this whole effort wouldn't be possible. And of course for us it is also a pleasure that we have received so many different excellent research papers. The program committee was composed of scientists, of distinguished scientists, researchers, not only from the Baltic states, but also from other countries. And our privilege was to read all the excellent papers which were submitted. And of course, only the best of the best were selected for a presentation in this particular conference. So those of you who are presenting today, congratulations. Yeah, you can give a round of applause. Also, for those who are registered for the conference, you have probably already received an email tonight about the book of abstracts of the conference. So you're welcome to browse this book of abstracts of this conference and discover what other research presentations will be today. But without further ado, I would like to give the floor to our first participant, Ruuta Pirte, with her excellent presentation on a very interesting topic. Please, Ruuta.
Thank you. Okay, so yeah, it's working. So hello everybody. My name is Ruuta Pirte, and today I will present our recent research study about cybersecurity education in Latvia. And this research study we made together with my colleague Matis Veigus, who is from Ministry of Defense of the Republic of Latvia, and also he is a student of Riga Technical University. So basically, I think that everybody knows that there is significant skill gaps in terms of cybersecurity in the European level and of course also in Latvian level, but is because of the new directive and also just because of the lack of cybersecurity specialists in general. That's why we wanted to actually explore what is the situation in Latvia concerning education provision, and also what is missing competencies and work profiles, especially in Latvia. So basically, the aims of the study was to investigate this cybersecurity education needs with the aim to recommend policy makers and other stakeholders recommendations according to the future education provision, considering the skill gaps, future education needs, and of course also emergency technologies. And for that, we have added three main research questions. So the first one is actually what is the current education provision in Latvia concerning different education levels and types. The second one, what is the structure of Latvian cybersecurity workforce, considering different roles that we have and also roles that we don't have. And the third one is what is the competency gaps and future competency needs. On that study, we used design science method. So basically what we did, we used a knowledge base. We used a knowledge base concerning existing cybersecurity education competence frameworks. Also, we look on the scientific papers, what are the future cybersecurity education competencies that is already explored in other research studies. Then we take a look on existing education provision that was basically done by the desk research. So we looked on the programs, on the study courses in different levels to understand what we currently have in Latvia. Then we have also a focus group discussion. It was held as a part of Latvian Cybersecurity Competence Center, organized by Ministry of Defense. So we had about 30 experts, and we had several discussions what are actually the problems and competencies required. And the third main thing concerning this method was a survey. So we surveyed Latvian enterprises. We get about 50 different responses regarding what are the roles they currently have and what are missing competencies. If we are looking from European perspective, then I believe also all of you know that there is a different cybersecurity skills frameworks. European cybersecurity skill framework that have 12 roles, and also NIST that have more roles, like 52 different roles. If we are looking on the profile of small countries like Latvia, then basically we are more closer to the ENISA framework, but still also looking on the structure, actually in some cases there is not even these 12 rows, there is a one or even non-existent cybersecurity specialists who kind of try to combine different competencies. If we are looking from current education provision of Latvia, then here we have just some cybersecurity skills integrated in general education and vocational education. Then we have quite a lot of non-formal education provided by different, mostly private and also public education provision, what is basically like driven by market demand. Actually, what is required, then there is a kind of lot of specific courses. If we are looking on higher education, then mainly it's a master degree. So we are having about 4 different study programs in master degree. If we are looking on bachelor degree, then we have just some of them, and there are some courses integrated in general computer science study programs. But if we are looking on social science or any other science disciplines, there is actually lack of any cybersecurity related courses in Latvia. Then we have also different professional standards in Latvia, and here you can see what is basically the ground of professional education. If you're looking on those standards, then I would say that they kind of partly corresponds to a NISA work structure, and also if you're looking actually on open data about vacancies in Latvia, then I would say that those standards also only partially corresponds to actual roles that we have in cybersecurity in Latvia. Then, if you are looking from existing workforce structure, then the role who was mostly mentioned in Latvian organization, it's a Chief Information Security Officer. Most of the organizations have this role. Missing roles was mainly digital forensics investigator, cybersecurity architects, and also cybersecurity researchers. Then 70% of organizations mostly employs specialists with a formal degree. Then 30% have also specialists that don't have formal degree in computer science or in cybersecurity. Then if we are looking from competency gaps, then again it's digital forensics. cyber threat intelligence, and cybersecurity architecture implementation. So as you can see in the slides, it's about almost 50% of surveyed organization that lacks this role. As our group of respondents was relatively small, additionally we take a look also on open data of Latvian employment portal for last 3 years, and also we take a look on commercial portals like CV, LV, and other. And basically these findings corresponds also on vacancy analysis as at the date of the research, digital forensics and SOC operators, and also incident managers, that was one of the most mentioned role in the vacancy data. Here we can see also the competency gaps. And again, here we can see actually that from survey it shows that it's mainly related with digital forensics, cyber threat intelligence, and cybersecurity architecture. And if you're looking on less missing roles, then it's like cybersecurity standards, regulatory compliance management skills. And I think it's good correlate with workforce structure, because mostly enterprises have a CISO role, but mostly they lack the incident managers and digital forensics experts. If you are looking actually on Latvian education provision, then again, in a formal education, we actually found maybe just one study course regarding digital forensics. So that is what educational organizations need to consider to enhance their future education provision. Then, from a skills perspective, basically employees seek a balanced set of skills. That's why the conclusion was that actually just finishing one single study program, it's not enough. Cybersecurity specialists need to supplement their education with lifelong learning, so all the time rising competencies. And if you're looking from skills perspective, then those are skills who are mostly in demand. So it's cloud computing, zero trust, penetration testing, again, digital forensics, and also all context of new emergency technology as artificial intelligence, big data, and blockchain, because we are implementing rapidly those. So we need also to have a competences how to protect those. And also there was mentioned that there is a need of traditional IT competencies. So enterprises survey show that also general systems architecture, networks, databases, it's something that they are expecting from the cybersecurity specialists. Here we can see also mapped skills, and I'm out of time, so I will not go on this slide, but here the most important is that actually it's not only technical competencies, it's also operational competencies, professional competencies, and leadership competencies that are the most demanded for the future cybersecurity specialists. And this is kind of a summary considering these three sources: survey, experts group discussion, and also related research. So there were also provided different kind of recommendations. So in total in our study we have about 20, but I think that maybe we can focus on some of them. So first one is that actually cybersecurity needs to be integrated in all levels, starting already from the kindergarten, but is also kind of common finding. Then there is big need of educators, as this is actually one more gap what we found out, that there is all specialists are going to the industry because of different matters, also financial ones, so there is actually not good specialists who are educators, and that's why we don't have provision so big as needed. Then also there was a recommendation that the study programs courses needs to be aligned with industry standards, and educational organizations needs to be agile, because current adoption time, it's not enough to industry needs. So basically we need to be able to rapidly change the courses, integrate new competencies and so on. And to conclude, so basically Latvian cybersecurity education like ecosystem aligns also with European funding. So we are missing cybersecurity specialists, and the main missing roles are digital forensics investigators, cybersecurity architects, and also we miss cybersecurity researchers. Digital forensics and cyber threat intelligence is most critical missing competencies in Latvia nowadays. Besides that, it's also important that because of the NIS2 directive implementation, also CISO role is becoming more essential, and if you are looking from SME's perspective, then this is one that is missing as well. Yeah, basically the last conclusion is that currently all cybersecurity education is not so well coordinated. So there is different ministries involved, like Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Education, but there is not a common plan actually how to provide education provision in national level. And of course, we don't have also doctoral study programs. That's why we miss cybersecurity researchers as well. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Ruta, for this very interesting presentation. And actually, for us at the Ministry of Defense, at the National Cybersecurity Center of Latvia, it was a privilege to work together to contribute to this exercise of drafting the cybersecurity skills roadmap, which you developed together with my good colleagues Matis. And now I would like to give the opportunity for the audience to ask many questions. I would like also to remind for our online viewers that you can ask the questions via menti.com. You will see the QR code on your screens, and of course for the audience here on site, please feel free to raise your hands, and we will give you the microphone. Yes.
There is plenty of online training available. Have you evaluated whether it can help solving this gap, and maybe some kind of structure or something, ability for the first comers to distinguish between good content and bad content, like those facilitating mechanisms is something we miss?
Yeah, actually, we part of the research study, we also identified that there is a lot of different educational courses regarding cybersecurity. Of course, they are mostly in English, but I think it's kind of common that everybody knows English. But the biggest issue is actually, as you also told, that how to identify which ones actually are good ones, which one we can recommend of those, because currently there is kind of anybody who knows something about cybersecurity are willing to provide some courses, and that's why there is also one recommendation to kind of create just a national-wide platform, not to duplicate anything, but just kind of to indicate a good courses from different roles, and also to add something like voting system, for example, that we can show actually what relevant for the Latvia. As for example, these all courses that we're having for United States, I would say that they are not so much relevant, because we are a small country and we need to have just some kind of let's say specialist who is good at different tasks actually.
Okay, maybe yet another question. I actually observe quite a trend that cybersecurity experts are working abroad, actually living in Latvia, but working in the same US or something. Haven't you seen it as draining out our capacity?
Yes, this is also, of course, issue. It's actually the same because of this all service centers that are coming in Latvia, but providing services to like other countries, and yeah, they are a bit more competitive than, let's say, our SMEs or government organizations.
Thank you. Yeah, I see a question here.
So thanks, first of all, for all these nice listings. I somehow had the feeling that most of those elements were describing reactive profiles, like, okay, there was an incident, we are reacting on this. Were there also some indicators or description about skills which force proactive development in the cybersecurity, to shape actually awareness and really collaboration instead of just fixing problems, like?
Yeah, I understand your question. I think that one of the missing roles actually was also a cybersecurity educator, but is more like not reactive but proactive, because it's about awareness sharing across the companies. And if you're looking on this like setup of missing competencies, then there was also yeah, actually, this soft skills related things actually, that how to raise how to communicate properly, how to be in line with everything. So I think this is what we also need to consider. It's not only technical things that experts need to know.
Thank you. Yes, Ina has a question, please.
Yes. Thank you. Do you have any suggestion, because you very good defined skills what is necessary for cybersecurity and actually for society and organizations, but do you have any suggestions how we can organize in Latvia this coordination between Ministry of Education, different state agencies, Ministry of Defense, to organize these courses and systemize them? Because previous question was about quality of education or different type of courses, and usually education organizations licensing some programs which is going through some evaluation. Maybe you have some suggestion how we can start organize it.
I think the first suggestion that we had also in our study was that there need to be one leading role. So, because as you also asked in your question, that there's different organizations. So I don't know if it's Ministry of Education or it's Ministry of Defense, but somebody need to take this responsibility, actually. I think it is the first step forward. And then about organization, so yeah, then I think like in our study we have this big overview, but then we need actually to see what is the gaps, and somebody need to coordinate how to implement it. For example, one of those was that in bachelor's level we don't have so much of cybersecurity specialist education. Then again about the study courses integration in non-IT study programs. Then about something like evaluation of the quality or recommendations of good online resources. So yeah, I think it's first step is to find this one responsible person, actually, institution.
Thank you very much. I see that we do not have any more questions, so thank you. I would like to give a big round of applause to Ruta. Thank you very much. And I think we can continue. I would like now to, yes, please, Ruta, don't run away. We have a little gift for you as well. And yes, it's a pleasure always to have such distinguished researchers present their studies at this conference. And now I would like to give the floor to Ina Gudale, who will talk about small and medium enterprises.
Yes, thank you again. Hello, my name is Ina Gudale. I am working in several organizations, starting from Latvian Internet Association. But actually, here I'm presenting a small Latvian SME, Be Safe. And I would like to say that I am Riga Technical University Liepājas Academy researcher as well. actually working in quite a wide area. And today I would like to present our research and development project, what we're doing in very good, interesting program, coordinating by NCC Latvia, supporting by European funds. And this research is mostly about SMEs and NIS2 directive. We know very well that some big organizations like banks, financial organizations, telecommunication organizations, they are totally ready to precede all of requirements of NIS2 directive. But if we're looking for small and medium enterprises, for them it is something absolutely new. Biggest part of them did not hear about anything, and we're focusing on research how SME in all 3 Baltic states, because we have to work all together, and especially that in this situation where we are living, it's so important that SMEs will be strong by cybersecurity as well. And we are going to prepare manual for implementation and a very simple tool for self-checking about situation organization, about NIS2 directive requirements. Our research is starting, but we already recognized if, for example, ENISA give us top 10 emerging cybersecurity threats. In Baltic states, we recognize at the moment 3 most important threats for our organizations where we have to organize protection. Short statistic about cybersecurity in Latvia. I do not will read it because you're reading much faster than me. And I would like to say that in some cases, situation is not so bad. But in some cases, I would like to say that we are totally not ready for serious attacks from different countries. And just shortly statistic from Lithuania and Estonia, just to compare what they are doing in this case. And the biggest, how to say, most important point, that some SME organizations even do not recognize that it's relating to them. That cybersecurity not relating to them, that they are not interesting, and they are not afraid to lose data or to be attacked from different sides. And this is small comparison. In Lithuania, they understand that this is a higher threat level, but in Estonia, SME think about that this is a state government responsibility to take care about them, not they have to care about them by themselves. And of course, we look to some solutions which existing at the moment in market. Yes, we find out that it is a lot of interesting solutions how companies, especially SME companies, can organize cybersecurity in their organizations. All of them are totally different, and the biggest problem is that SME do not understand how it can help them. It's a very good tool organized by NSA Cybersecurity Assessment Tool, where companies can check situation, but it is mostly focusing to medium and big enterprises by European level. And actually, we know that in Latvia, close to 99%, like in all Baltic states, 98%, all of those enterprises are small and medium. TET, Network Shield, is a very good tool, can help companies to organize cybersecurity as well. S-Protect platform, Microsoft resources, providing different type of support for security of companies. And in Latvia, it is very good BDO consultations who can make interesting report for company situation in cybersecurity area. And it's a cybersecurity tool. Prepare personalizing recommendations for small and medium enterprises, which is very important because companies must know what they have to do to increase level of cybersecurity. That network shield helps protect against different type of content, can protect Wi-Fi routers, and one of the benefits of this program is that easy implementation process, which is very important, especially for SME companies. As Protect platform, preparing and providing centralized management tailored for SME, which is very important as well because our SMEs are absolutely different. In some companies, it is some critical data, even if they do not understand it. Of course, now we already know how to protect personal data, but we still have different type of big mistakes, big problems, even protect personal data. What we can do about cybersecurity deeply. Microsoft Security Resources. It again helps identify and mitigate threats, which is important to understand the biggest problem in any company. And BDO cybersecurity consultations, making risk assessments and audit. But it's again tool mostly for medium and big companies because it's cost. And the biggest problems that small and medium companies, especially micro companies, they are not ready to invest in cybersecurity. They dealing with other things. For them it's much more important to develop products, but in some cases they do not think about protection of those products. And this is the biggest mistake for future. Today they do not understand in how big problems it is them business. And it is some challenges for SMEs in cybersecurity, and actually I would like to say that previous lecture very well presented all of threats and all of knowledge needs, what we have to organize in all of our 3 Baltic states. And very simple recommendations from this beginning of research. And we recognize the same point which was presented in previous presentation. Regular employee training is essential. And companies must understand that in training they must involve some forces and they must invest money. Otherwise, they do not will survive in this future world where we are going. How SME can improve cybersecurity, it is again a lot of different way, but my personal point of view is that education of staff, education of managers of small companies is crucial, because if managers do not will understand that they have to organize something in cybersecurity of company, staff do not will be trained. Thank you for your attention. I am Ina Gudele.
Thank you very much, Ina, for this very insightful presentation. And now I would like to give the floor for the questions from the audience. I believe there are Definitely some questions about how we can support the small and medium enterprises in this whole ecosystem, and of course in the context of our cybersecurity challenges, in the context of cybersecurity reality which we have nowadays, it is very crucial to do that. And we see that the first question is here. Please.
We have currently also much digitization activities due to structural funds, recovery funds, and so on, ongoing in Latvia and elsewhere as well. Have you somehow experienced also a demand or seen that these services are used or supports are used also for cybersecurity improvements in the companies themselves, not only the trainings provided by academies or so, but really by the companies?
Yes, I would like to say that from my personal experience, I see that companies and actually some specialists understand more and more that they have to learn more and going to different type of courses, better or worse, but they are training themselves. And which is very interesting that some of, especially women in age after 45, they decided to change professions. And for example, from financing, they starting to learn some information technology professions, and cybersecurity and personal data protector is one of new profession, what they are learning. And actually our company, another company, we're training license program, 160 hours, where a lot of women going learn, for example, information technology system training, personal data protection, and cybersecurity as well. If I can add something from my presentation, what we recognize that unfortunately is no coordination and cooperation between 3 Baltic states. Companies do not cooperate each other. And of course, from one side, any company would like to keep them commercial secrets. But from other point of view, I am absolutely sure that if companies will cooperate between together and put them commercial securities together, it could be created a lot of good and interesting products.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Do we see? Oh, yes, yes. Can we give the microphone, please? Perfect.
Thank you. I just want to ask a quick question. In one of your recommendations, you mentioned that employee training is very important, and one of the recommendations would be to devise some sort of strategy, a plan for employee education. I just wanted to ask, do you have maybe any practical examples of how that looks like? Like, should it be done like online? Maybe the employees should be trained in, like in an auditorium. Should they be rewarded? Should they be punished if they fail, for example? How would that look like?
This is a very good question. I would like to say that one of our company doing this. But this training can be in 3 levels, because not anybody need a highest knowledge about cybersecurity, but they must know how to deal with it. And even one of skill what is necessary, stress management. It's a skill what we have to learn. Critical thinking, it is a skill what we have to learn. Another level, and some things we can learn in organized remote training. It is a lot of digital platforms, and it is have to be just a qualitative course. Another level, well, companies organize training for staff in presence. And this is the best way, because people have possibility to ask questions and receive answers. And the third level, it is training in laboratories. what is trained a high-level cybersecurity specialists. But I would like to say that, like in medicine, when doctors have to go certification each 5 years, I would like to say that cybersecurity courses, everybody have to go once per year, because everything developing so fast that even our research, we're doing some research and we see that it is something new what we have to bring forward.
Absolutely, I agree. Agree that we need to focus on training because the cybersecurity situation is developing so rapidly that we need to adapt to the new realities. Thank you. I see another question here.
Yes, if I may, I suspect that small enterprises mostly are consuming IT as a service, not doing it themselves, and I would expect that IT as a service should come with a cybersecurity component bundled in already. Shouldn't we try to change it in a way that those providing IT services actually should have an obligation to train their users how to use their services in a cyber-secure manner?
Yes, this is one other solution. If company outsourcing cybersecurity services, which is very good, if they have money for it. But anyway, they have to train staff how to deal with it. When to, even this stress management, if something happened, do not make panic, but to call service provider and to prepare some strategy what to do. Yeah, critical thinking. Do not make panic or to understand, okay, it's something going wrong. Let's work with our partner. My personal opinion, and this opinion we made with some researchers as well, that it's have to be trained any person in cybersecurity. Even, how to say, housekeeping have to understand some alarms, what's going on. But of course, it's different level.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I would like to give a big round of applause for Ina. Ina, thank you. Thank you very much. And please receive a gift. And now we are jumping to the topic of cybersecurity in the area of healthcare. So I would like to give the floor to our next presenter. Please, Guna Semyonova, but she... Okay, welcome, but yeah, I would like to give the floor. Please introduce yourselves and your panel and your research.
So yes, I'm Andre from the CyberBazaar. Thanks for Ina for building the bridge to healthcare, and thanks actually also to Ruta for introducing or showing the cycle about these job skills. I don't know if you know, but in 1968 there was a conference which was supported by NATO, and this cycle was developed during this time. So I would say the industry has a problem if you after 55 years still no solution to this. But now to the topic of our research team, which I'm actually more mentoring and supporting. We are in healthcare active with this project, and this presentation is more a case study about how we see ourselves currently in our journey in our EU supported projects regarding how to improve acute ischemic stroke intervention and with digital tools and international collaboration. Therefore, we are not security experts. We are open for collaboration also outside this project, and we would highly appreciate to elaborate on the topics we present. And first of all, the questions to those who are in the room: who has registered at the EasyChair portal for this event? I did. I guess Ruta too. And this was one of the first steps for this conference, where actually I thought, hey, do we have there maybe a privacy or security issue? Because it's a UK-based organization, servers seem to be in Germany. I am entering potentially with my registration names, emails, and so on. Is it actually safe to go there? I would say, hopefully yes. but they had also a dropout of service delivery. So I was exactly checking this registration page when their service went down, and then I thought, okay, are they actually maintaining it automatically or manually? So, you know, these are the small pitfalls we have to train our people about to see, okay, if there is something, think about what it could mean. But in general, we are acting in a EU context, so that means the goal of the research project is a more applied goal towards transferring the services from healthcare and also from the digital field towards the market. And this is one of the big challenges, and the other challenge is that the most important is that we want that ischemic stroke patients are treated much faster, because actually the reaction time should be less than 30 minutes, so that the patient gets picked up and treated in the hospital. This was the starting point. So when this consortium met and started to talk about what they are going to do and how they should collaborate, there was this map created about, okay, how we are actually right now collecting the data. Who is collecting? Where? Are we actually the owners of the systems, of the data themselves, and how they are interconnected? So, as there are no IT specialists and also only legal support on demand available in this project, this is like how amateurs would build the overview. And then it's a question, okay, how can we improve this? And we made the next step for this. So basically, we considered what are we actually doing there. On one side, our research has a systemic approach about this, what we have already in our ecosystem, legacy systems, what kind of knowledge could be maybe hidden in some kind of data repositories and so on, which basically means we can learn from the past potentially. On the other side, we have this active work of the healthcare professionals. And yes, personal data is that what everybody is aware of, but you know, there are a lot of things we have to consider and to work on and to align on in these processes. And so we derived for ourselves some building blocks which we would like to review in the project research and to elaborate on in the future as well. And as I said, it's about ischemic stroke, which basically means as faster you come to as a patient to the medical treatment, as higher your chance of survivals are. Which means the project, before I analyzed what is the current state in some of the hospitals participating in the project with 11 steps or core steps of bringing patients to the operation room, and we shortened it to 9, and this is a goal to figure out how these 9 steps can be rolled out across Europe potentially, or become a blueprint for Europe. Why? Because if we skip emergency department and this comprehensive strokes and the delivery to the comprehensive stroke center from this activity plan, we save time. And that's also the thing. We need to buy time for the patients. As more time as early as the patient gets into the right hands, as better. And with a system which is built or created, we want to gain insights where we still can improve and gain more transparency so that the practical operations of the healthcare professionals becomes better. And yes, at the end we save life. You saw the drawing before. As I said, it's a bit non-professional drawing, but it's an inspiration. And the point is here that the project itself aims to implement telemedicine tools. Usually if you think about telemedicine, it's about how to use maybe a mobile phone for communication or tablets. But actually when we went through the system, we understood also that, hey, there are some more components of supplier to be considered, which actually go beyond the classical telemedicine understanding in terms of we are exchanging information between different spaces and organizations. And then so also legacy systems have to communicate with each other, and this has to be aligned. And as I said, it's also an observation how we worked or created this project. And honestly, we are right now in the execution phase of the project. But if you take the starting point, and most of you are researchers, you know what you do in the beginning. You try to find partners for your research. And actually, you have a lead partner who has an idea and you try to adapt to this. So basically, you are actually aligning only on some ideas in the very first beginning. That means security and privacy at this stage is mentioned, I would say, but not really considered as a solution, I would say. Then the consortia got lucky, confirmed. So you get the project, then you sit together and you figure out as consortia, hey, yeah, we made a nice application, but now we have to collaborate. And here it was like the people decided to hand in an application, and now comes the organization and says, hey, for example, for Latvia RSU maybe, hey, actually we have some concerns regarding the privacy and security policy internally from our organization. So basically you have to review everything, how you collaborate in this project. Honestly, it was a tough time, I would say. It took about 2 or 3 months that the consortia could find the right way with the experts discussing how to align now the collaboration. And it's still for the consortia just a starting point. Why? Because now we know we have to execute on the projects. We have 24 to 36 months roughly to understand how all these things could somehow reworked during the project and optimized. And at the end, everything what has to do with regulations and directives is always so far away, because even most of the directives we have right now, they were just implemented or are getting now implemented in national law, for example, which means it's actually not clear what kind of consequences it could have if something is not working. So, therefore, the thing was for us, how can we improve our collaboration? And we understood we have somehow also a network structure. I know here are some linkages missed between all these points, which would show that this is a true network. But 2 main issues are, or things to concerns are given. We have to be compliant, and we have to understand how to work with the people. And so, as I'm a bit mentoring this team, I thought about the best practices in software development. And currently, hot topics are, okay, domain-driven design since 20 years roughly already, team topologies since 6 years, and Wortley maps is also a topic arising in the last three years. And those 3 methodologies would allow us somehow to guide our collaboration or structure our collaboration and communication. Why? Because with domain-driven design, we actually have the opportunity to find a common language, to define what we are talking about across the organization so that everybody also understands how the other person sees it. And we can match it with the real-world activities we have in our organizations. This is a learning process to get a same common language. And it's very often hard to distinguish between learning and discussing. Because if we discuss, then we heat only up, but we have to extract then that what we found out for ourselves in this collaboration. Why also team topologies? Because basically this is a nice framework where you can figure out who is doing what at what stage. For example, stream-aligned teams are, for my understanding in this project, the healthcare professionals delivering the healthcare service, while platform teams are those who are delivering in the hospitals the data platforms which are exchanging then with other organizational platforms information. So we can use these methodologies to get our workflow aligned and more efficient. Also meaning we get an understanding where we are collecting data and where we are actually also maybe in need of more data or information and how to clarify it. And then we come to the Wortley map itself. This is a very interesting approach because it gives us actually the opportunity to say, okay, we built something new, so we are in a genesis phase, and we want to get to some kind of a market readiness. And it is about mapping the tools and approaches which we currently use or which we would like to use in the future towards this performance, because research projects should commercialize at the end. And here again, it's also how can we map to our work the relevance and the awareness of directives or about directives and regulations to our daily work. And we can integrate this also then with the activities. But why is it a novelty? Because if we take, for example, those 3 methodologies, we would have the opportunity to start modeling and simulating on this. Why? Because we have, with the time and all these development stages, a foundation on which we can introduce measures like time, costs, risks, And in my opinion, this could give us the opportunity to simulate on this whole cross-border collaboration and on the activities itself, and it would also allow to benchmark it. This is a bit visionary from my side currently, but you know, research. If it could be touched, developed, and realized, I would say it brings also a very positive effect in terms of we could actually quantitatively show what kind of risks are emerging, for example, from regulations. Yeah, including KPIs. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I believe there are some questions, definitely. And for our online listeners, I would like to remind you that you can ask the questions via menti.com. You see the link and the access code on your screens. But are there any questions from the audience to these wonderful researchers? Yeah. Yes, please, Gunnar. Yes, it should be on.
It works, and hello everyone, and I'm a project coordinator from Latvian side, and I'm coming from healthcare, and I don't know how many coming from healthcare in this room. Yeah, and so, yeah, and thank you for the presentation, because it's actually, if you have a clinical background more than 10 years, and you have a doctoral degree in medicine, then to jump this cyber security and data management and data sharing between the three or four countries, as a project coordinator from Latvian side, I had huge challenges. So this presentation, what you are seeing, actually are really great point, what I heard in this conference, because usually most of the time in cyber conferences where I had been in previous times, so there are maybe one word about healthcare, but actually healthcare, we in everyday basis we obtain a lot of personal data, and if a healthcare professional are not informed about the digital hygiene, then yeah, we are the weak point in this all data sharing chain. So yeah, that's actually my comment, and just to think about, and thank you for our opportunity to share our viewpoint from healthcare perspective. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Yes, the topic of healthcare, I think it is very important, given that this is a critical sector, and a cyber attack against hospitals would, of course, be quite damaging. We see it on practical examples, which have happened in real life, and where people actually died as a result of it.
I would say, as we just said, also the point of collaboration. The Baltic states are for this really a very nice environment to figure out how this collaboration and communication can be established, for example, in healthcare, also with respect to the European health data space and so on, really to show what could become best practices. Because at the end, the goal of the research project in our case is it should become a inspiration or best practice. Yeah, and if we talk about and get also insights from you back, we can improve. Yeah, and let's work on this.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions for Andre?
Thank you for your presentation. You are doing excellent job. Very important project for, I would like to say, not just for our countries, but for whole world. But again, about education, did you put in your project some components about training of staff who will work with all of those systems?
That's better something on your side, yeah.
In our, actually we saw that that should be in the next stages, that when we will train the clinicians to get the data, we will train them how to get the data and be sure that these data are secure. Yeah, and at the moment, actually, we had this huge challenge how to share the data between hospitals, because the ethics committee told that you can't share, but we, on our way, we figured out how to make it more reliable and more secure. Yeah, so we now we saw that we should train our clinicians too.
That was also why I was taking such a deep breath, because yes, I would say the consortia itself is thinking about this, which is then more about enabling the members of the consortia. And we have also ongoing discussions what to improve during the project. But we see that, let's say, this also the presentation itself is already a first learning of how to structure and orchestrate the collaboration in this context, and how to understand how to communicate this, which is a learning base, nice. And now, correct question from your side: how can we transfer it to other fields? And therefore, if you have suggestions, let's do it.
Yeah, perfect. I see another question.
I have, I am not an expert in medical system, yeah, but I suspect that there are a lot of players within it with a very diverse level of maturity. And to tackle that problem, I guess you are aiming for a high level of standardization. And actually, high level of standardization contradicts with ability to adapt to regulation changes. So how to find the right balance?
That's a very, very, very good point. Because, as I said, most of the regulations which we are aware of right now, like privacy and so, they are also quite young, even though they were discussed for 10 years or 15 years. But now comes also this AI Act, the Digital Service Act, and so on. So we actually don't know how this will impact this market in general, or this industry. And the point is, the industry is currently driven very strong by startup initiatives and so on, which exactly bring even a higher fragmentation in. How to say? I would say yes, standardization in terms of how we should communicate and collaborate, like to find a way how to have a line of command, maybe in the military slang to say. But flexibility in terms of adapting to new technologies and new approaches by communicating and testing them fast and integrating them, to give the players with the potential a chance to participate in this thing. Because if you really take the healthcare itself, one of the biggest regulations we have in healthcare are medical guidelines, which are even not official ones. They are like implemented by the field experts. And that means if a treatment is defined in the medical guidelines in this ways, changing this or influencing this is very hard or takes a lot of time. So that means even though maybe projects like ours would get new findings and improvements, it will take time to get it aligned with those medical guidelines, for example. So yes, there we have this case with standardization and how to get fresh or new ideas in. But that's why to talk about, because if more people come up with best practices and proof of this, that this is possible through collaboration, it should change also, hopefully.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And let's give a big round of applause for Andrei. And now I would like to give the floor to Ilze Pērziņa, who will talk about internet and human rights. Our conference is multidisciplinary, so we are jumping from one topic to another. Please, Ilze.
Good afternoon. My name is Ilze and I'm a human rights lawyer. Most of you are IT specialists or specialists also from medicine, from other fields of life. But today I will give you some kind of insight about internet and human rights. And my task is even more difficult because I'm going to speak about right to be offline, as a new human right. And we are all today talking about right to be online, how we are all using digital tools. Is my microphone working? Okay. How we are using digital tools, how we are using new applications, how we are using different kind of QR codes, and we are developing and developing. And it's very difficult to go against stream, but we have to think about it. And this is what I'm going to talk to you about today. And every day someone is creating new mobile application. Every day there is an enterprise which is deciding, these discounts must be available if our clients are going to download this application. And they all think that you are their only client, and that every day you go and you will have a new application in your mobile phone. And I did some research on this. What do we do with the services which can also and must also be available offline? And what are our human rights actually in the internet? And now discussion among researchers, and I found many articles and points of view from high academic lawyers, judges in human rights courts, that can we guarantee the same human rights online as offline? And actually it's quite challenging, because we fight it for human rights for like 50, 70 years, and now everyone understands what does it mean. I mean, everyone has its own opinion. But anyway, human rights is something we all think, we know. But now we somehow need to rewrite new human rights for internet, because we don't feel protected. We don't feel good about it sometimes. And yes, and should the right to be offline be a new human right is the question. I made some list. Actually, I can speak 1 hour about this, but today I have chosen to speak about 5 rights. And firstly, to speak about freedom of speech, because freedom of speech was the first human rights online, connected human right. It started long time ago with the first internet new portals. Is it a media? Do we apply human rights? And then it started with hate crime, hate speech. And now it starts with right to be forgotten in the internet, which is a human right, because we want to be forgotten sometimes in the internet. It's a very interesting topic of new human rights, new digital human rights in the internet. Protection of privacy. Again, we can speak 1 hour about it. And protection of privacy of our identity, which is more than our Facebook, Instagram profile, our avatars, whatever we create. How far can we go with this? And when we look in the literature about understanding of privacy, we see that privacy is also right to be alone. Loneliness is a privacy. Right to disconnect is our human right, because it's a part of privacy in classical human right understanding. Freedom of movement and security. I'm recently reading one book and it scares me. It's about border controls, automatic systems, artificial intelligence at the border control, possibility to make mistakes. It's about automatic systems who might make decisions about private issues, life, and how dangerous it actually is. And what has happened, what can happen if your mobile phone is gone and you cannot prove your identity. And yesterday I was talking to my friend who told that her mobile phone was stolen in Bristol, and she was calling some help agencies from mobile phone of her friend, and they were all telling to her, but please authenticate yourself. And she told, no, I don't have smart ID, I don't have my mobile phone, don't you understand this? And she couldn't do anything. So we all might find ourselves in this kind of situation. Freedom of movement. Actually, there is many interesting cases during pandemic when people needed to be in hotels for quarantine. And there is one case in Taiwan when one man was arrested because his mobile phone was off, and authorities thought that he is somewhere else. But he was with his mobile phone off in his hotel room. He was still obeying quarantine, but it created a human rights violation because it was his freedom. And right to fair trial and justice. This is very interesting issue, very interesting. It's about do we have a right to fair trial and justice in case something is stolen from us in the internet? Because if something is stolen from us in a real life, like pickpocketing or something, we go to police, they start a case. But if we lose money in the internet, people just say, oh, you are stupid. And you have to lose a lot of money for police to start really seriously investigate the case. And when I was working with my colleagues for a cybercrime prevention project in State Police Department, we had many cases, and people started to report to us these cases. So it was all around me. If I wanted to have an interesting evening and birthday party, I was just mentioning, oh, I work on this kind of project. And people started to tell stories, but they have never told these stories to police because they are ashamed, you know, or they simply don't want to speak about it. Also, robots are making decisions in court in US, automatic decisions about human beings. And of course, we all want to make sure that also human beings are reading these materials. Of course, robot can probably see, okay, if there are some main aspects in the case or check documents, but there should be also a human being who tells this person is guilty or not guilty. But it is also something which is happening. And access to goods and services, right, to be offline. In the end, I will show you a website where you can register and read more about it. You can also sign a document on EU level. People are now signing it. EU researchers, high-level people from all fields are starting this discussion in Europe. It means your service to healthcare, your bus ticket, your train ticket. It means you go and you want, yes, whatever, border control, any services. And sometimes you cannot do it without registration, without registering yourself on a concrete platform to become a part of, you know, some kind of system again and again. And so it is quite dangerous sometimes. And now developing digital human rights, many topics. A right to be forgotten, online privacy, right to access the internet and network equality, because during pandemic, everyone needed internet to survive, to have interesting life, to study probably from somewhere, and to keep, you know, interesting life. And now we are also talking about network equality without discrimination. And as we all see, also access to internet portals, like in China, people cannot have access to everything what they want. Right to security and cybersecurity, I think this topic today is covered. I'm not better. Right not be a subject of decisions made by automatic data systems. Believe me or not, but if you start reading about it, you understand that many times already someone decided something automatically for you. Also, even if when you fly somewhere, it's also artificial intelligence who is stopping, oh, let's do narcotic test. Okay, I have 6 seconds. 3 stages of development. So at the beginning, we were trying to use old human rights treaties. Then we are trying to adopt. And now we are at the 3rd level because we have new subjects of law. We have robots, we have avatars, we have companies who create robots. And yes, we are still not having definition. But mostly when we talk about offline, we talk about right to disconnect from work duties. And this is how it started. And with labor law also, first human rights started actually, about 8-hour working day. And now we are back to life. We are back 100 years ago, and we again start discussion, can we be offline and not work? So, this is a website, Right to be Offline EU. It's a very interesting one. I suggest you to look at it. Yes, so all fields of life. And my presentation, I think, will be available. And yes, conclusions. We are all having interesting life. We have hybrid life, I think. Something which is theoretical and what is real life. Of course, it's a threat to democracy, but probably it will be a better life in the 22nd century. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And it was really, really interesting to see it from the legal perspective a little bit, more like a conceptual overview of what we are dealing with in cyberspace, not only technical issues, but also human rights issues. Do we have any questions? Yes, please. I will give you the microphone.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. My question is, or the point I have is, the activities are always for the inhabitants, or for the humans, the citizens. Honestly, for example, if you test the system in Latvia, you will figure out that your rights, you have the rights, but you have to prove that you are right as an individual. And my question is, what could be done that these voices of the individuals could be somehow merged or so and put on the table, that the right is really executed, implemented, advocated, however. So, because as long as I'm only me, but all the others have the same problem, it's hard.
Yes, it's hard, and personally I use both approach. Sometimes I buy ticket from person because I don't want that person to be fired, because they will not have job if I will buy ticket only with my mobile application, Mobili. But sometimes when I'm in a hurry, I feel safer when I have this ticket in my telephone. So I kind of do both things together. And I think people also need to speak out about their wishes. Because, for example, some medical institutions, because you are coming from, your project was about telemedicine. Old people want to call ambulance or come to ambulance or hospital. And not everyone will use mobile application. And this is why researchers in EU are starting to think that the same services, which are essential services, they have to be available without connecting, without authorization through technologies.
Thank you. We have another question, please.
I'm fine. Yes, thank you so much. Thank you for the presentation. I'm happy to hear that this point is made, because yesterday in OECD's business meeting in Paris, there was a very, very interesting point from aggregators of medical data, of private persons, who said that people give away their data in order to become learned about and digitally entwined. And by its idea, the prohibition of use of data for further methods than for just one simple thing that people have allocated data for is already infringement of human rights. It somewhat raised hairs on my back. And I thought, in your educated opinion, where there is this limit of human rights and the one who is keeping our data or our digital twin, maybe particularly in regard to healthcare?
With healthcare, it's very sensitive. I remember I gave my data to my family doctor, and And after some time, you receive some adverts and you think, I think these data are somewhere else. And I think we all had this kind of situation. It's very sensitive. And I think we even don't know in how many places our data are, somewhere in the Google Docs, in the clouds. Their data is currency of 21st century. Even when you have a newborn child, in 1 week he's in 10 databases in Latvia. The database of children who are born in hospital, database of, I don't know, Riga citizens, database of vaccinated children, database, no, like and every day we are video filmed, like it's becoming, yeah, we have no privacy.
Yeah, that's true. We live in an area in an era where we do not even have this luxury of having a privacy. Yeah. Well, we have more questions, please, on the first row.
Hello. Very interesting presentation. Thank you so much. Also, I was wondering, from your perspective, how do you think, as more we will digitalize, because we see SMEs and governments are digitalizing their services every day more and more, do you think this need to be offline will just only increase and get this voice just louder and louder? Because there will be like no way out? Because I understand now your perspective, we're everywhere online, and I work as CERT, and I know we all are. But I think the more we will digitalize, do you think that the louder your inside voice will be to kind of move away from that? That's one part of the question. And the second part of the question, sorry, is from your research, which are the ages that people are more eager to be offline? Is it the older you get, the more you want to be offline, or is it also a need for younger people?
Wow, fantastic idea. I haven't done this kind of research, but I think it's a good idea to see, because my personal opinion is that it depends from person and character of person. Sometimes people can answer very quickly and you see that they're online all the time, and sometimes it's very different. Like young people, they agree to meet somewhere and they switch off sound of their mobile phones. Like it's very typical. And there are some people who are very technologically advanced, even if they are older, and they want to learn. And OECD was mentioned in our discussion. There is an OECD research laboratory about this issue. They are testing artificial intelligence and impact on brains, on habits of people. And it's very difficult to predict how it will go, but I think at one moment people will find some kind of comfort zone. And about right to be offline, and there are some 6 countries now: Spain, France, Italy, Denmark will adopt law very soon, and Germany, as I have explicitly written it in their local laws also, this right to be offline. And recently I noticed some people during their birthdays, they really switch off everything and they say, I celebrated with the people who were together with me in a real life. So, but anyway, we live in a hybrid world. Like one part is digital, another part is a real life. And there was an interesting conference, I think it was spring this year, Nordic Council of Ministers. They organized a conference about loneliness in the 21st century after COVID pandemic, like how to cope with it. And this is why I also respect a lot Nordic people, because they're always the first to say what they feel, and immediately. They make it as a title of the conference. I mean, people in Baltic countries very rarely do this. But yeah. Thank you
very much. I see we have a lot of questions, but unfortunately we have run out of time. So I would like to give a big round of applause for Ilze. If you have some time during the coffee break, so you're all welcome to give to ask questions to Ilze. Thank you very much. And well, my final, please receive a little gift. My last remarks for this particular session is that it was really a pleasure moderating this session in the afternoon, so after lunch. Here the research conference will continue with more technical presentations, more advanced technical topics to tackle, and my good friend and colleague Bernhards from CERT-LV will be moderating this session. As for me, I will see you back again in the closing plenary session. Also, a quick announcement is that at the closing plenary we'll be awarding the best paper award for the winners for the best paper submitted to this research conference. So the authors of the research papers who have submitted their papers are welcome, more than welcome, to attend and be present at this closing plenary. And finally, I would like to give a big thanks to the organizations, the national cybersecurity centers of the Baltic states, because without them this conference would not be possible. Also, the European Cybersecurity Competence Center, the European Union Agency for Cybersecurity, as well as our partner institution, which in this case is the University of Latvia, but also we have other partners with other parts of this forum. Thank you very much and enjoy your lunch, which will be served right there. Thank you.
Good afternoon and welcome to the second half of the research track. For those who do not know who am I, my name is Bernhards and I'm representing CERT-LV. I will be your moderator for this afternoon session. Before we venture into the discussions and the presentations, there are a few house rules. So we'll have 10-minute presentation followed by a 5-minute Q&A. I do encourage you to ask at least 2 questions for every presentation. It will be also streamed live. Those who are joining us live, yes, you, please follow the Menti code which will be showed on the screen to ask the question. And with this, we will jump directly into the first speaker. I would like to welcome on the stage Simona Zotske.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending my presentation. Today, I will focus on performance analysis of post-quantum cryptography implementation in secure shell environment. To begin, let's set the stage. Today, widely used asymmetric cryptography like elliptic curves, RSA, Diffie-Hellman key exchange mechanism is vulnerable to quantum computing attacks. Let's name this cryptography as classical cryptography. And post-quantum cryptography is created as a response for this threat. And now we have algorithms created. And the main issue is how to transit to the using of new algorithms, which are quantum safe. Prototyping the infrastructure helps identify integration issues like performance bottlenecks, interoperability challenges before full deployment, and ensure smooth transition to quantum safe. That's why we decided to create a prototype, and the aim was to collect data to understand and analyze how this post-quantum cryptography works. So our prototype was made in our prototype figure shows the prototype scheme. Server and client was in the same local area network, and for experiment we used regular computers which were several years old, and we did not rely on any specialized or new hardware. Our prototype SSH service worked as application in automated connection mania, two cryptographical solutions were needed. One for key agreement. It was for establish a shared secret connections, and key-based authentication. The digital signatures cryptography were needed. This setup allowed us to determine how post-quantum can be integrated within existing infrastructure. And we used OpenSSH version 8.9 and quantum safe library, Open Quantum Safe. We tested post-quantum key encapsulation mechanism standard. The name is Kyber, and as you see in the first column, there were the names of parameter sets in the table, and for hybrid variants, Kyber was hybridized with corresponding elliptic curves, Diffie-Hellman algorithms shown in fifth column of table. We tested three post-quantum signature algorithms, Falcon, Dilithium, and Sphinx. Dilithium and Sphinx are already standards, and Falcon is expected to be evaluated in the next release. Those post-quantum digital signatures vary in parameter sets. For example, as you see, Sphinx has very small public and secret keys, but very big signature key, fourth column. And Falcon is algorithm which has moderate key sizes of public and secret keys, and very good signature size comparing with others. And these algorithms were hybridized with elliptic curves, digital signature algorithms. We combined every Kyber version with digital signature algorithms and collected data of SSH performance. In this slide, you can see PQC implementation results of all combinations. On the top of the table, there is collected session size data in bytes, and the lower table presents SSH session data in time, milliseconds. The same was done with hybrid implementation, and data was collected. So moving on the results analysis. This figure illustrates the performance of SSH sessions in terms of time and size. And different cryptography usage is presented. As you see, the red color presents classical elliptic curves performance, and it has a very small session establishment size, but is not as fast as post-quantum cryptography. And hybrid implementation is naturally that it's between classical and post-quantum, because hybrid is then you use classical and post-quantum together. So post-quantum and hybrid time and size parameters very depend on combination of selected algorithms, especially from the choice of digital signature algorithm. Moving next, we analyzed the data, and this figure displays box plots of data. Left part of figure presents SSH session size data. Classical elliptic curves appears as outlier compared to post-quantum and hybrid implementation. Furthermore, the session size data of hybrid and PQC appear comparably similar, with no significant difference observed. Hybrid increases session size compared to post-quantum, but still not so big increase. However, connection time data on the right side of figure indicates that elliptic curves falls within the standard deviation of hybrid data. Hybrid implementation of algorithm results a wider time distribution, because the time parameters for digital signature algorithms fluctuated more significantly than in post-quantum settings. As you see, post-quantum box plot, the blue one on the right side, is relatively short. That indicates that combination of all post-quantum algorithms combination perform quite similar in terms of time. And the determination of outliers indicated that above the threshold is Spinch variant 192. So we excluded this variant from hybrid and PQC implementation, further implementation. Okay, and prototyping led us to to decide which algorithm is the best, what combination of the algorithms is the best. So going deeper in Kyber parameter analysis, figure present the minimum, average, and maximum data for both time and size of every Kyber variant. And distinguish PQC implementation on the left and on the right hybrid implementation. Based on our findings, Kyber 512-90s emerged as the best performing key encapsulation mechanism in both post-quantum and hybrid implementation. And looking deep at digital signature algorithms, figure presents these algorithms test results, and left side displays PQC, right side hybrid implementation, and also in red there is classical algorithms presentation. Falcon 512 was identified as the top signature algorithm, exhibited stable performance and showing minimal dispersion in time data and size data. It's not next slide. Okay. And next, we tested file transfer capabilities of these algorithms. No anomalies were observed during the transfer. Figure illustrates the time and size of operations fell within no expected deviation, with expected deviation norms. And interestingly, that transferring a very large file, like 1 gigabyte, there was the performance started to look very similar in time perspective. So there was no significant difference which algorithm to choose, which combination of algorithms. So to sum up, we have few conclusions. First, in our case scenario, post-quantum was implemented in standard computers, and so we can say that new algorithms does not require specialized or new hardware. It's a myth. And despite the increase in session size, PQC showed faster performance than classical algorithms. And another observation, the main, I think, is that algorithm signature size matters, because signature size impacted SSH session size. That's the biggest cost if you want to implement post-quantum cryptography. So you should be aware about how many bytes it will produce. And I hope that this experiment data will be helpful for those who intend to implement post-quantum algorithms under similar conditions. So thank you for your attention. And I'm looking for your questions from you, which related to transition to post-quantum cryptography.
All right. With this, let's give a quick applause to the speaker. All right. I will kick off with a very simple question. How hard it is to implement the Open Quantum Safe library for the Linux systems, and will it be also easy to implement it on the Windows systems?
We implemented on Linux, Ubuntu used operating system. Actually, we had to make some special changes in configuration, because library which we implemented, SSH and post-quantum were prepared only for like virtual machine in one computer with no like real connection between two different devices. So we made configuration changes. That was a little bit challenging for me to find out how to do this, but it's like a learning process. Yep. And about Windows, I cannot answer.
All right. Let's take if there is a question from the audience. There is a question from the audience. Yeah, if you have also a question, just raise your hand so I can pinpoint you already in advance. Thank you. Go ahead.
Stand up or I can...
Whatever. Just use the microphone, please.
Okay, I'll stand up. Thank you for your nice presentation. In fact, I have a couple of short and very maybe technical questions here. So first, regarding the virtual machine where your test environment was implemented, what was the hypervisor? Where was this virtual machine? Like, was it virtual box like VMware or somewhere in the cloud? It's probably the first one. And the second one regarding the duration of SSH session. Yeah, what was the criteria of choosing concrete test intervals? So either it was a prior research or any other criteria, like how you choose those session intervals for your experiment. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Firstly, about the machines, I want to emphasize we used like real environment, and yeah, this was this was with real computers, not virtual machines, and in local area network. And these two computers, one was server, another was client, they were connected via switch, which was only 100 megabytes. And then these sessions, yeah, it was not just one session for one combination. I did like 5 sessions and then looked at the data. If it has some not outliers, like normal distribution of data, and then averaged like a result. So, and if there were some assumptions that there is some outliers, I did more sessions with one combination, and then with standard distribution of data, then made average of session evaluation.
This, we have to give a round of applause again for the speaker, and we will transition to the next one. In the meantime, I will already introduce our next speaker, who's going to be joining us remotely from India. And again, continuing up with the quantum topic, I welcome on stage Mursal Hamdani.
Thank you. Am I audible?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Thank you. So let me present. Can you see my slides? Okay, thank you. So myself, Dr. Mursal from the Department of NWC, SRMIST, India. Well, from the jolting bullock cart of yesteryears to the supersonic jet planes of the 21st century, the face of science keeps evolving. The methods of sending secure data has mostly been done using what we say as conventional key cryptography methods, like the RSA, ECDH methods. However, these being sensitive and vulnerable to harvest and decrypt attacks, where basically we have encrypted data being easily collected and stored and then kept for decryption later, whenever we can have any powerful computers or quantum computers at our disposal. This renders safety of medical, financial, critical infrastructure data sensitive, and it's basically rendered not safe and in jeopardy. So what's the solution? Solution, as we say, is quantum key distribution or quantum cryptography, which can help us in detecting the eavesdropping via, we can say, a measurable noise in quantum channel as per se. So when we talk about employing QKD, it has been there in experimental stage right in 2002, around 22 years ago. But the number of nodes that it employed were few, and day by day the nodes are increasing and the size is increasing. And we see that as of late 2020s, we also have a conception of satellite QKD systems. So the scope is ever increasing. What also we also have insight is that more than 50% of the global population, they basically are near the metro or the access networks. So if we deploy practical QKD systems in these areas, we can have large scale production. But what limits that is the bandwidth, the loss by distance, and particularly the deployment costs. And therein, where I'll then introduce my topic, is that we basically need volume production and scalability of QKD systems. And that is possible by this technology of basically miniaturizing the quantum key distribution or quantum communication circuitry. And that is basically the photonic integrated circuits. On the left-hand side, I have a snapshot of one very well-cited this paper, which basically reviews all the photonic integrated circuit, you can say the different tries that have been related to the photonic integrated circuit approaches to basically the quantum key distribution architectures. So it will talks about the different platforms that basically take into consideration. Now, directly coming to the proposed DPS QKD TX-RX schematic, this is basically just a 3D simple 2.5D rendering of the basic work that we will do. So we'll have an on-chip laser, and then basically have a TX chip, which is not the subject of this presentation right now. But on the RX side, we'll have a simple interferometer and SPDs, and then basically the analyzer. Now the challenge here basically will be that we have to keep the data quantum secure, and for that we will need, for this quantum communication, we'll need high bit rate QRNG, for which then also phase modulation techniques like time bin and polarization encoding can be taken into place. And then basically we also need to keep it power efficient, and the main issue is that these then should be the deployable units. So these are basically the three main we can say the hardware blocks for the QKD based TX and RX, the QKD and TX, the QRNG, which will produce the random qubits, and then the QKD receiver. For the QKD receiver, we'll use an asymmetric. We have used an asymmetric Mach-Zehnder interferometer. It will be basically employed on a passive chip, keeping its requirement of 2 gigahertz deployment. The main advantage again being the circuit footprint being very low, of the order of 4 millimeter to 8 millimeter. So the important points are the first, the one single star is for the on-chip delay. We'll have a delay line, so that we will implement using a higher length. As you can see, the foldable lines at top. Then the double points for the MZI, the input MZI, basically we use it so that we can manipulate the output of this delay line. I mean the power balance between the delay lines, because these delay lines will also have high losses and we need to capture them as well. Then we'll have the output MZI, the double asterisk, which will basically be for the simple, we'll tune it using a thermo-optic phase, thermo-optically. And this is basically so that we have complete 50-50 splitting. Also, we'll have a phase shifter in between the 3 asterisks that will basically be for the phase tuning as well. Then we have some simulations for this particular design that we are targeting, the 2 gigahertz, for which we'll have 500 picoseconds delay line for the silicon nitride design. And we can clearly see the insertion loss and the extinction ratio possibilities for the asymmetric MZIs that is there. So for the target delay of 50 picoseconds for a delta L of 0.1 meters within the chip of this size, we have these comparisons as well. So we can support extinction ratios up to 19.6 dB, while the insertion losses will be around 1.9 dB. We have also taken into account the power budget for the different delay lengths, and thus the different speeds for which basically it will work. So for the 2 gigahertz, that's the 500 picoseconds. We'll have an insertion loss of around minus 2.7 dB, and then we'll have it for 750 picoseconds, a higher one, and then for the 1 nanoseconds as well, and for the 1.25 nanoseconds. So this is basically the different test structures that we'll basically have within it, so that we can try the pros and cons of the different architectures that may be at display. We also have to make basically an important, we have come to an important conclusion with regards to the propagation losses and the bending losses. We have used silicon nitride platform, and herein is the table which will basically compare the different types of integrated photonic platforms. We have the gallium arsenide, the indium phosphide, the silica, but we'll be using silicon nitride. As you can clearly see that the bending radius is quite a bit on the higher side, but as compared to gallium arsenide and indium phosphide, but the propagation losses are the main issue here, because we have almost 0.1 meter of these delay lines within a 4 mm cross 8 mm. So that can then create an issue for us if the propagation losses are higher. So we are going up with silicon nitride based devices. And we, as we can see here, we have the loss versus footprint trade-off in this case. And then basically here in this case, we'll be going with the silicon nitride, because the total loss because of this particular feature that I talked about in the previous slide, rendering it so. So that is basically all. And the conclusion basically is that we have come up with a novel design of a photonic integrated circuit based QWERTY receiver that then has the capabilities that we discussed. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Let's give a quick applause.
Thank you.
Now, switching gears, literally switching gears, I would like to welcome on stage Agne Maria Bucite, and she will talk about the computers on wheels.
Thank you. Oh, is it working? Okay, perfect. So, okay, first of all, my presentation is not going to be nearly as technical as the two previous very interesting presentations. So it was very tough for me to make a decision about what to talk today, because, you know, I thought that if I chose a more in-depth, high-level automotive cybersecurity related topic, then it wouldn't be as interesting and as relevant to everyone. So I chose a more generic topic, also to raise awareness, because in my personal experience, I've met people who have told me automotive cybersecurity, it's fake news, it doesn't exist, it's not necessary, and so on. So if you have similar types of thoughts, I'm here to prove you wrong. So we can begin. So this is a brief overview of the abstract and the agenda. So what we'll be covering today, in short, is the threat landscape, some key incidents, attack vectors, and we're going to be focusing a lot on solutions. And of course, the final step is going to be a short Q&A session. So let's talk about the current landscape. So in the early days, we began in around 1980s, we only started seeing single devices or ECUs in vehicles. Then we transitioned to 2000s, where we started seeing some more complex vehicle systems. And what we have now are modern vehicles, starting from around 2020s. And what I want to highlight here is that we started seeing the infrastructure as a whole. For example, we have a thing known as vehicle communication systems, meaning we have vehicle to pedestrian, vehicle to grid, vehicle to vehicle, vehicle to cloud connection types, and so on. And the whole infrastructure needs to be secured. So what this means that we have increasing vulnerability to cyber attacks. There was actually one interesting article I just read recently, and it talked about the fourth screen. So basically in our lives, you could say that we have 4 screens with which we spend our time almost each day. So the first one would be the TV, the second one would be our computer, the third one would be our mobile phone, and currently the fourth screen could be considered the one we see in our modern vehicles. And what I want to emphasize as well is that imagine that some of the personal information that you keep inside of your computer or your phone, some of it is also stored on your vehicle. For example, if you have subscriptions, if you have synced contacts, and all of that. Then next up, we're not going to go through all of these incidents, because if we decided to go through all of these incidents, each month, starting from January up to December, we would take the whole 10 minutes. So I'm just going to go through these 3 following slides briefly, and just to emphasize that not only each month, but also every week, every day, there are loads of automotive cybersecurity-related incidents happening globally. So these are only some of the top incidents highlighted here, meaning that some of the individual incidents that people experience, such as theft of the vehicles or things left inside the vehicles, are not mentioned here. So these are only some of the top incidents, just proving my point once again that there are loads and loads happening each month. Next up, I want to focus a bit on incidents by attack vector, and these specifically are incidents by attack vector of last year. So in the top place, we have telematics and application service, infotainment systems, and so on. But the thing that I wanted to highlight here is that some key attack vectors, some appear and are totally new, and others decrease in popularity or gain more popularity. And one of those attack vectors that recently gained popularity is APIs. So in 2022, attacks via APIs increased by 380%, which is a crazy number in comparison. And another key attack vector that I want to highlight here is EV charging. It didn't used to be here a few years ago, because not only do we have to protect the vehicles themselves, but also other components that are facing externally the vehicle, for example, mobile devices, various databases, charging stations, and so on. Next up, we can talk a bit about incidents. So here, once again, we're speaking about statistics presented in the year 2023. So nearly all 2023 attacks are remote, and they can be split into 2 categories, so either physical or remote. And remote attacks can also be split into short range and close range. So when we're talking about remote attacks, they can be considered such as attacks via APIs and so on. When we're talking about short-range attacks, we can consider attacks such as via Bluetooth and so on. And when we're talking about physical attacks, we can consider such types of attacks. For example, I assume that you may have heard of the Kia and Hyundai incident, where the lack of the immobilizer allows for a person to be able to use a screwdriver and, more importantly, a USB to basically ignite the vehicle and to drive away with it. So this is just one example, or CAN injection, or another example would be inserting a malicious USB device. So these are just a few examples of attacks using physical attacks. Even though you are more likely to get caught using these types of methods, but sometimes they are way easier to accomplish, such as, for example, in the case of the Kia and Hyundai hack, because as I mentioned, all you need to do is to have a USB and a screwdriver and a Kia or Hyundai vehicle. And when speaking about remote attacks, well, usually, of course, you can avoid being caught. They can be more complex and intricate. And Just to give you a few examples, for example, if you have heard about a very famous security researcher, Sam Curry, well, he recently released a blog post, I would say around a month ago, where he spoke about the ability to be able to remotely hack keys, specifically just using their license plate. So in itself, it's pretty severe. Or perhaps you may have heard of the, I would categorize this as the most famous as a whole automotive cybersecurity related incident, which is the Jeep hack that happened in 2015, where hackers were able to remotely control the vehicle steering wheel and braking, which in itself is very critical and severe. Now, what we can do next is discuss EVs a little, because this is one of the most common questions I get. Are EVs actually more vulnerable? So I will give you the ability to decide this for yourself eventually, but the thing is that, you know, when you have a car that is driven by petrol or diesel, you can just grab cash, go to the nearest gas station, just pay for the gas and drive away, right? But if you have an EV, you usually need to have a mobile application, have some personal information, also payment information, and it has also been proven there is this type of attack called the broken wire attack, which proved that it is possible to interrupt a charging station. Even though in itself it doesn't sound like such a bad thing, it doesn't sound like a severe case, but the fact that it's possible to interrupt a charging station, for example, for an ambulance that is an EV car, well, you can only imagine what the consequences might be for such a case. So how can we actually handle this issue? So I have decided to split the solution into two different categories. So first we'll cover some of these solutions for users. So one of them is to keep your data to yourself. So I just have one question for all of you. Just out of curiosity, how many of you have at least once in your lifetime rented a car or sold a car? You can raise your hands if you want. Okay, I see, oh, okay. I would say like 50% of you. Okay, let's say this is going to be a rhetorical question. I'm just wondering how many of you had synced your phones with your car, for example, and how many of you decided to actually remove some of that data from your cars? Because, for example, one of my friends, he just bought a new BMW, and he saw all of the previous owners' mobile data synced with all of the contacts, numbers, and so on. So I highly suggest for you to just keep your data to yourself or delete everything before exiting a rental vehicle. Also, keeping track. I know that this may sound a bit paranoid in a sense, but jokingly, I know a person who uses an AirTag, and he has placed it in his vehicle to keep track of it in case it gets stolen. Of course, the usual software updates. Of course, avoid jailbreaking or modifying your vehicle software because you can also make it less secure. Also, limit connectivity features such as avoid using Bluetooth when unnecessary. And also, I highly suggest to monitor for recalls and any types of vulnerabilities. And the last section that I have here is solutions for manufacturers. So, of course, the good old penetration testing. Then we have threat analysis and risk assessment, which in my own words, I call it a penetration test, but from a theoretical standpoint. Then we have a cybersecurity management system, which in one word, I call it an audit. And then we have the regular VSOC, but it's a vehicle security operations center. And the last suggestion that I have here is, of course, fostering a good security culture in the organization and promoting continuous awareness and training. And the time is up sign looks very aggressive, so I won't torture you anymore. So if you still have doubts if cybersecurity in vehicles is a necessity, I always like to use this example. So imagine the Samsung safety truck concept, and imagine driving behind this truck and the screen glitching, just for like a few split seconds. You can only imagine the consequences. So thank you for listening, and I guess question time.
All right, let's give an applause. And yes, just raise your hand if you have a question. There's a question here. I will give my microphone to you.
Thank you for the presentation. It was very nice. I just wanted to ask a quick question. Among the attack vectors you mentioned, some of them were Bluetooth and infotainment systems, like basically wireless connections. I wanted to ask, how are these attacks actually done? Like, how do hackers actually do these sorts of attacks? Because you still need to be in the range of the car's connectivity protocol. Do they just like do war driving, looking for vulnerable vehicles? What does that look like?
Yeah, so you actually have to be in close proximity. For example, like we have the relay or replay attack, you still have to be in close proximity of the vehicle and you're a lot more likely to get caught. So sometimes, I even know a few people who have told me that they have a Flipper Zero and they just go around looking for Teslas, and with a Flipper Zero you can actually just unlock the Tesla's charging port. That's all, nothing else happens, but you can just like play around with it, and some people do this. So I would assume that some people, I guess, they just walk around, look for open Bluetooth connections, and just go ahead with it and just try it out.
I think the war driving would be the best option here as well, right? You drive around and try to take down the cars around you. What about, you said you had a list of common attack vectors as well, and the popularity. Now that the autonomous driving is being discussed a lot, of course we don't see it here, would you predict that autonomous driving could be a potential target as well?
Yeah, I would say that's a very big topic in itself, and the irony in this is that we don't even need to have hackers to have problems when it comes to autonomous driving, because if you have heard of I think it's called Cruise, autonomous vehicles in the USA. There's basically a group of people who were actively using traffic cones and putting them on those autonomous vehicles to stop them from driving because they're against development, such technology, and so on. So, but generally speaking, I would say that yes, in the future, potentially autonomous vehicles, if we're gonna start seeing them more and more in the streets, they're gonna potentially become an increasingly popular target. But just speaking about targets, generally I noticed that EVs are also just in themselves becoming an increasingly popular target because, as I mentioned, we have charging stations. When it comes to mobile applications, we are usually required to provide a lot of information, such as personal data, payment information, and so on. It has also been proved that it's not only possible to basically stop a charging station, process, but also to prevent it. So I could keep going and going on about this all day, honestly.
I feel you can continue, of course. You're the expert working in the field, and I would really encourage to catch her after the presentation and talk to her. With this, thank you so much, and give a round of applause. Don't run away, you have a gift as well. Don't drive away. Our next speaker I would like to welcome on stage, Kirill Solovyovs, our local guy from Latvia, and he will be talking about a few things about the ICMP protocol and trying to use it in a fancy way.
Thanks. Pleasure to be here. Yes, indeed. Anyone here has used ICMP knowingly before? No. 3, 4, 5, 6, ping pong, yeah. So I'm going to be using it in a different way in this presentation. So I'm going to give a short overview of the research I've been up to starting the beginning of first half of this year. A little bit about me. I run a company called Possible Security. We have a booth over there in the end. Go take a look later on. But I do yearn for the days where I could spend the whole day hacking. So these days I just try to have a research project or two where in my free time from 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. I code a bit and poke around. So this is what we're going to be talking about today. Since only 5 of you have ever used ping or ICMP willingly and knowingly, I'm going to start with network throughput theory, and then I'm going to talk about the research, the setup and the methodology. And then I'm going to show you a small overview of the tooling, and we'll take a look at the results, of course, as well. So I guess we've heard the quote, the internet is a series of tubes, sometimes attributed to Al Gore. Not true. Anyone knows who the author of the quote is? the reference image here, the diagram 1 on the left is the internet, of course. It has a lot of poo in it lately, I believe. But that's my personal take on that. So Ted Stevens is the actual author of the quote, also from US. He was, or maybe is, a US senator. In my personal opinion, not the brightest guy in the bunch. Certainly not a guy who favors internet neutrality, which is a big thing for me personally. So that's how the internet works, in short. But let's go to nitty-gritty theory, right? So we have these 3 cool things happening on any network. It doesn't even have to be an IP network, right? We have bandwidth, we have throughput, and we have latency. And those are 3 different terms, and maybe some of you are aware that some of them are related. But if we take a bit deeper look, we can actually postulate that all 3 of them are related in a way. Now, for bandwidth and throughput, those are the similar ones that people sometimes mix up. So bandwidth is the potential to transfer data. How much data can we potentially transfer? For example, in the Baltic states, I hear that for home users, the available bandwidth is usually higher than the rest of Europe. So in Latvia, for example, it's not unusual to get a 100 megabit uplink at home, maybe 300, maybe even 1,000. It's standard offering, nothing special. Throughput is how much stuff is currently going through the network. So it indicates, what are you trying to haul, how much you're trying to haul through your network pipe. And latency is finally how long it takes for, any packet or the first packet to travel from one end to the other end. And obviously, if we take a look into that, there's a correlation between all 3 of them. And that is what the research is based on. So basically, latency, of course, correlates directly to throughput over bandwidth, meaning the more we try to stuff into the pipe, the higher the latency is for everything else that tries to go through there, because physics. And we as the academic way, right? I'm not too good in the academic terms, even though I try. So we use that to our advantage. Let me show you how. So this is a test setup here. This is the internet in the middle. That's how it looks. We have Mallory somewhere else on a different autonomous system, so a network managed by someone else. And we have Alice with their home system here. In this example, Alice is the home router that you may have at home. And there's a laptop and a TV on the network. Please also pay attention to the width of the pipes. So the bandwidth here is indicated by the width of the lines. Usually, in core internet exchanges and in the center of the internet, if there was such thing, we have a high bandwidth available. And usually this part here, even though in Latvia it may be 100 or 500 megabits, usually that is a narrow part. And then again, at home, the classical thing to do these days is usually you get 1 gigabit per second link for your home network inside the network, or maybe even more. So this is the relative bandwidth of those links, and that's important. And what's also important is that in this research, we are not trying to do a denial of service attack on anyone. And that works in our favor, also because we do not need a high uplink. Mallory doesn't need high bandwidth over there, right? In the last slide, you will see that doing the measurement with the newest methodology takes up about 2 to 3 megabits per second, which is normal for a 100 megabit uplink on either end. But it is, of course, noticeable. So let's take a look at the methodology now. So basically, Mallory simply pings these 2 devices. So all we need to do the attack is the IP address of Alice's router, and then we use some technique. For example, traceroute would be the one I'm using right now to identify the previous hop, which is usually the ISP router. And there may be traffic shaping. Usually, traffic shaping is done here, which means that the packets that we're going to send over here have higher bandwidth available than the ones we can send over here, which then again, with changing throughput, means we have a delta latency available. But I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. So after we send the ping, and you did see the ping, both pings are being sent at the same time. After we do that, usually the first device to respond will be the nearest one. Right, we have it here. And then after some time, we will have a response from the other one. And here all we do is calculate the time difference. When did the second arrive? And we remove from it the time of arrival of the first packet. And that's it. That's the whole story. And by looking at this number and by plotting it, we can understand what's happening with the TV and the laptop in Alice's network. Are they watching YouTube? Are they listening to, say, audio streaming service? Are they downloading or uploading files, installing software updates? To be clear, we do not see if they're watching YouTube or Vimeo, even though we did notice some small changes in patterns because of how buffering is implemented differently on JavaScript side. But we are not looking at the actual, we're not disclosing any data. We're just looking at metadata and doing a side channel attack here. Now, for the final measurement, we also installed a NetFlow collector right there to compare the data that Malware can receive over here to the things that are actually happening on the network over there near the Alice router. All right. So this is the first prototype that was created about 7 months ago. All we do is we basically ping both of them, and to synchronize the pings, it's really, really important to do it at the same time. Internet is a wild place, and most of the stuff that's happening on the internet is packet switched, meaning that every packet can travel a different route on the internet. So it's really important to send these out at the same time. So this is what we do. We launch the ping at the same time by using this fancy sleep thingy. It's Bash, by the way. That's the language I coded because I'm old. So one millisecond is the precision, the maximum precision we can get here because of how this all works. But the fun part is that after visualize it using, again, some Bash tools and some chart script that I made for myself when I was doing my second master's. I had like 100 charts in my master's thesis, and I had new data coming in every day, so I just wrote a tool not to regenerate it using Excel or whatever. So using that, we finally get this. This was the first test ever. It was literally run using the code you just saw, so those 5 lines. And we can see here in this example, we have a computer analysis network. It's a 100 megabit network. It's downloading 1 gigabit file unshaped from the internet. And we see many interesting things here. We see a spike at the beginning and at the end. And it, of course, will depend on the hardware being used. And we see a sustained increase in average latency during the download. And this is done from a separate autonomous system, completely remotely. I accidentally left that running overnight. It was really an accident, and you can actually see stuff happening here. So you can see some downloads over here. You can see there was, I think this was watching TV. And then we have YouTube over here as well, or was that the other way around? Maybe, yeah. I don't have my notes with me. It was YouTube around 2,300 hours, and we have some YouTube activity at around 230 hours up until 300 hours. So quite cool. And then the question I was looking at: what is the best packet size that we want for doing this, right? We can send different packets. We can send 50-byte packet or maybe 1,000-byte packet. So I sent all the packet sizes, well, not all, but some of them, these. And I looked at the graph trying to understand which packet size is good. And if you look at the graph closely, you understand that there's no correlation. So why? Well, I realized that a couple months later, I was sending them all at the same time. So the network was being loaded using all the packets at the same time, and I couldn't measure them separately. So I fixed that in October. I actually send the packets one by one, different packet size one by one, and that is actually useful again. So now we look at this. It's a bit better if we zoom in and we remove all the bugs, all the minus, the negative values. This is what we get. Really happy about this graph. This is an actual trend line. I didn't force it to be horizontal. It is horizontal. The data is horizontal, which is really nice. It means depending on packet size, we get average delta latency, which is specifically different. Out of that, what we also have the possibility to estimate the bandwidth, right? Summary. Time for summary. Oh, it says time is up. Ah, shit. I thought that's just my slides. I thought it's a threat. Okay, so to estimate the bandwidth, right, we have the different in packet size, different in packet time, times 2 because it goes both ways, and bam, this 100 megabit network is calculated to be 95.54 megabits, which is cool if we take into account the overhead of IP and ICMP headers. Now, these are the results, the summary. We have a speed test here. So at first we have download, then we have upload, and we see completely different traffic patterns, and these are more than 1 packet per second, the test itself. We see download over there on the left, and we see upload on the middle. And we can see this characteristic speed going up and down, and going up and down. Well, not the speed, but the load, right? And finally, here is everything put together. This is the most interesting part, the summary, as you requested, Bernhards. Well, I mean, you know, you have to keep the audience engaged, right? Everyone will leave otherwise at the beginning of the presentation. So this is the most interesting slide. Yes, that's true. So we combine the net flow data with what we measure. And what we see in the horizontal lines here is coming from the net flow. It simply represents the traffic amount, or rather the speed of the connection in and out. You can see it over here. And you can see that it perfectly correlates to what we can measure from our tool. So you can actually see speed test, which is download here. We can see YouTube here with the buffering here, right? And we can see the upload here. And this is firmware update. Oh, sorry, software update. So there was a package on GitHub, and Microsoft has bought GitHub. It's a longer story than that. I'm not going to go into that. But Microsoft is doing their stuff, and it's really, really interesting. When you try to download stuff from GitHub pages, then it appears just like that. And yeah, that's for the summary. Thank you.
Thank you. It was like watching a YouTube video at the speed of 2 times, right? So, so thank you for this. Unfortunately, we do not have time for questions, but Kyrillos is available somewhere around there. So find him and torture him with questions. With this, thank you again for the presentation and a gift. As our next speaker, I would like to welcome Lea Müller, who is going to talk about the dictionary attacks. Right, there you go.
Hi, so today I'm going to talk about a dictionary attack with transformed Russian words using the QWERTY keyboard layout. It's more like about creating word lists or dictionaries for this type of dictionary attack. So, very quickly about dictionary attacks, I think it's a pretty well-known type of attack, just as a quick overview. So that's a type of attack where an attacker tries to guess an unknown password for a specific user. So the attacker will just use a word list, also called dictionary, and then try every word in this dictionary as a password to find out which password the user does use. And yeah, it's these word lists, also called dictionaries, and what this type of attack relies on is that users are very likely to choose easily memorable words. So, for example, natural language words, or just words that are contained in a dictionary. For example, if I'm a German user, I could just use words from a German dictionary, and that makes it easy to guess this password. But an attacker could also try to use passwords that were leaked previously. So there are word lists or dictionaries publicly available. The most well-known one is probably the RockU word list. So these lists can also be employed to guess passwords. And most users know about these types of attacks, or know that using just a dictionary word isn't a safe or secure way to choose passwords. So they are trying to circumvent this type of attack and just like add numbers at the end of a word. So for example, password 123, or just repeat words to make their password seemingly more secure. So for example, password. And what we were trying to analyze is if users might be switching their keyboard layouts to generate a password that seems more secure to them. So we were looking at Russian passwords. We assumed that this could also be employed for other languages or other keyboard layouts, but we just focused on Russian passwords. So our assumption was that Russian users would just like to choose a Russian word as their password because it's easily memorable. And then they would switch their keyboard configuration to the QWERTY keyboard layout, so the English keyboard layout, and then enter their passwords in accordance with the Russian keyboard layout. So what we can see here is the QWERTY keyboard layout in black letters, and the Russian keyboard layout, the most commonly used Russian keyboard layout, is superimposed in red letters. And if we now assume a Russian-speaking user choosing a Russian word as their password, so for example, this word here, it's the Russian word for password. And we can see that each Cyrillic letter, so the red letters, is mapped to exactly one letter or character on the QWERTY keyboard layout. So we have as a result a simple substitution table of Cyrillic letters for Latin letters or special characters. So if we now take this Russian word for password and just substitute each Cyrillic letter, we will get this seemingly random pattern of Latin letters. We can do this just for every Russian word, so we can create seemingly random sequences of characters which might then be used as a password by just switching the keyboard configuration in the background. So what we did is we used a list of the 50,000 most prevalent Russian words and just transformed them using this assumption I just presented. So here's an example of a few Russian words. So we can see on the left the Cyrillic, the words in Cyrillic letters, and then the transformed versions. I guess everyone would agree that this seems pretty random. And then we also took a list of the 1 million most commonly used Russian passwords and then just compared these two lists. We did this in two parts. So first we searched for exact matches that we defined as a transformed Russian word appearing in the password list just exactly like that. And then we also in the second step searched for partial matches, which means that a transformed Russian word is just part of a password in the password list. So for example, with numbers or additional characters added to the transformed word. And then we also did this in two stages for each of the searches. First, we looked only for lowercase matches, so if only lowercase letters were used in the password. The reason for that is that we just transformed all the Russian words only using lowercase letters. And then in the second step, we also searched for case-insensitive matches, so if a password also contained uppercase letters, to also catch these matches. And in order to reduce false positives, we only looked at passwords that had a minimum length of 5 characters because there were too many false positives with shorter passwords. So for example, simple keyboard patterns or, yeah. So we wanted to reduce these false positives. So first, let's look at exact matches. We used the Python code displayed here. So what we did is we just read both lists into sets and then performed a simple set intersection. In this case, this takes about 1 second to compare both lists, so it's pretty fast. And we found out that about a bit less than 1% were lowercase matches, and a bit more than 1% were case-insensitive matches. This means that about 1% of the 1 million most commonly used Russian passwords were an exact match for a transformed Russian word. Some examples are over here. Again, seems pretty random, I think. Then we also repeated this for partial matches. The results here were 6 to 7% matches. Again, you can see the Python code. In this case, set intersection did not work. We had to compare each transformed word to be a part of a Russian password. You can see some of the results here. So on the left is the transformed Russian word, and on the right is the password containing this transformed Russian words. So about 6 to 7% of all of the 1 million most commonly used Russian passwords were a match. Then we also, I've mentioned in the beginning that users are trying to circumvent dictionary attacks by just, for example, adding numbers. Common approach is, for example, to add their birth date or year of birth to a word. So we also wanted to catch this, and so we looked for passwords that were partial match with numbers added at the beginning or the end of the password, and here about 2.1 to 2.3% were a match. So we can see this on that side, passwords with numbers added. So summarizing our results, we found that about 1.2% were exact matches of a transformed Russian word with one of the 1 million most commonly used Russian passwords, and an additional 6.8% were a partial match. So we are, as a result, having a total of approximately 8.1% matches of transformed Russian words with one of the 1 million most commonly used Russian passwords summarized here. And on the left we can just see the distribution of exact matches in this case, so no partial matches, just exact matches across different password lengths. So we can see that 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 9 was the most prevalent password length, but also we had matches up to 21 characters, so this is just exact matches. All right, and as a summary, so this is a novel approach to creating target-specific word lists. In our case, it was Russian, but we assume that this could also be employed for all other languages that use language-specific keywords that differ from the QWERTY layout. And we also showed that a subset of Russian users use this approach when selecting passwords. There were a few limitations, so I think in future research we could use a larger set of Russian passwords, so more than 1 million, and maybe also a more recent data set, because our data set was from 2019, just to improve the reliability of our findings. And then also we could investigate into the password frequency, because in this case we only looked at unique passwords but not at the prevalence of these passwords. So it doesn't quite reflect the number of users that actually use this approach. And then I've mentioned that maybe also look at other keyboard layouts that use this approach. Thanks.
Thank you. Questions from the audience? There is a question from the audience. I know you. Welcome here. Wait for the microphone.
Yeah. Is it working? Yeah. So for the 1 million common passwords, I assume they were acquired through some means like data breaches or any other means, but not. I mean, most common users, I guess, don't have their passwords leaked. What I'm asking is this the list of common passwords used actually correlate to the actual passwords used by people, or yeah, that would be the question.
I guess it's always hard to prove that, because passwords that aren't leaked, we don't know, hopefully, because no one would just go and say that's my actual password, because then it's leaked. So if investigating passwords, that only works with password leaks, I guess. In this case, it was a compilation of several password breaches, so not just from one company or application, so several breaches being compiled together. But of course, using other data sets will probably give different results, so yeah, we can generalize these findings.
All right. So, so you already answered the question that I had also intended to ask. However, so you were relying on the breached passwords that are there. We already know about them, but they include a lot of passwords from all over the world. Typically, those breaches are global. How would you extract the Russian-specific passwords, or that was already done in advance?
Actually, I relied on a password list I just found online, so it was specifically Russian passwords, but I think one could also use leaked passwords, and for example, if for the domain of the user, you could search for the .ru domain to extract Russian passwords. Of course, I think there are also false positives for such password lists, but yeah.
There's a question.
It's more of a short comment. So we kind of could use this technique to find from bigger password leaks who are Russians. At least some Russians we could find. No?
Yeah, I think reverse would probably work, but I mean, we've showed that 8% of these passwords were a match. So what's about the 92% you couldn't find these because maybe they're just, I don't know, numbers or keyboard patterns, or maybe they are actually using secure passwords who are random patterns, so we can't identify these. But yeah, for the matches, that would probably work.
All right, thank you. Let's give an applause to the speaker. And as our, of course, we are encouraging young researchers like Leah here, and our next speaker, Martin Martian, is also a young researcher, and he's going to talk about the sophisticated malware detection approaches. There you go.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm pleased and honored to be part of this event today. And my name is Martin Martian, and I will present, I'm excited to share our findings of topic malware detection through network flow analysis. I will start this presentation by introducing why this research is relevant, also talking about one specific malware type that was chosen for this presentation, which is a warm cookie backdoor. Then I will show the process of how we implemented this problem, how we tackled it from beginning to the results, which showed how machine learning algorithms can classify network packets based on some network flow features that were chosen by us and or derived from network flow. And finally, I will discuss what went well, what improvements can be done, and give some insights about future research. Briefly, to tell who I am, I'm a final year bachelor student at Vilnius University at the Information Technology Study Program. This semester I started my internship at Vilnius Cybersecurity Laboratory, which presented me with this opportunity to be here today. And this research is currently ongoing. It's not finished, so I will share like partial findings of this research. I would like to start with like a simple background. In current digital landscape, there are numerous tools like firewalls, intrusion detection and prevention systems, which protect us users from threats in cyberspace. Among these tools, IDS systems are quite critical. However, there are certain challenges that make these systems act less accurate than they ought to be. First of all, the false alarm rate for IDS systems is usually quite excessive, meaning that they mark benign traffic as malicious more often than they should, which just exhausts analysts. On the other hand, some real threats can be sometimes rarely detected, which is usually due to outdated detection mechanisms. Another reason for that could be unbalanced data set in IDS systems, where there is just far less samples of malware or attacks than benign traffic, which just leads to bad detection rate. And response time of IDSs is also slow, but this is another topic. I will not dive into that. So basically, to sum up all of these challenges, we need to find a more maybe innovative approach of how to detect malware. And one of these approaches could be using machine learning algorithms. So the malware I will be presenting today as an example is called warm cookie backdoor. It is actually quite recent malware, first observed in April of this year. To quickly cover off the process, everything starts from a phishing email, which entices victims to click on some link and view some job description that they want to pursue, maybe a career in the future. When they follow that link, a CAPTCHA is popped up, which asks them to prove that they're not a robot. And upon submission, an obfuscated JavaScript file is downloaded, which initiates Windows PowerShell with instructions to download the worm cookie malware from some hard-coded server in this JavaScript file. The worm cookie itself provides seven command handlers for threat actors to abuse, some of which are to retrieve some information about the victim, to take screenshots of the system, read and modify files, and as well execute commands remotely. This malware is quite sophisticated. It has some persistence mechanisms, several obfuscation layers, anti-debugging, and some dynamic API loading. After analyzing the collected samples of network communication and infection with this malware, we have derived several unique features of this malware. So first of all packets which participated in malware download or communication with malicious servers, they contain unique HTTP metadata which could be used to detect this malware in the future. Also, communication with command and control servers contain anomalously large cookies which are also encrypted, and the communication with with these malicious servers, the communication timing entropy is usually higher than any other normal traffic. I will tell more about this in later slides. Now, to briefly talk about process overview of how this problem was tackled. So first of all, PCAP files were downloaded from malware traffic analysis website, which is highly used by networking malware analysts. Then, after thoroughly analyzing the PCAP files, a Python script was written to extract the necessary features like HTTP metadata and derive new ones, such as entropy. Then all these features are populated inside a CSV dataset, which is just more lightweight version for machine learning algorithms. But the dataset also needs to be pre-processed, meaning it has to be cleaned and coded and normalized, and then this dataset can be used in machine learning algorithms to actually try to classify which packets are malicious and which packets are not. I will start from feature engineering part, and I will give some math for fellow scientists and researchers. So to simplify this a little bit, we can represent our whole PCAP capture file with capital D, which is just a finite sequence of small packets and packets. And then each packet inside this capture has a tuple of features. These features contain information from different networking layers, such as IP addresses, HTTP metadata, also packet arrival timestamps, and so on. We can also denote a collection of end destination hosts inside this PCAP file. And then we can say that all packets that are destined for this one destination host, for example, malicious one, can be denoted with capital D sub H. And all of the timestamps for this one particular host can be denoted with T sub H. What I'm coming at, when we have all of our communication timings for one, for example, malicious host, we can calculate the intervals between some consecutive packets arrivals. And when we have these intervals, then we can calculate the entropy for basically timing communications with malicious servers. And entropy is calculated using Shannon's entropy formula, where the probability P is used by calculating a probability of specific interval of count of specific interval over total number of intervals inside the PCAP file. This is the bar chart that we got from calculating entropy inside one particular PCAP file. And this is just basically some random data, but we can see that there is an implication that communication with malicious servers can have higher entropy than average one. Now going on to the dataset after the feature engineering part. Basically, we used 17 features, 3 of which were categorical, like IP addresses and protocols, 4 were numerical, and 10 binary features. I can see that we don't have much time left, so I will not dive deep into this. We can get back at this at the Q&A session. After that, the dataset needs to be pre-processed. The data has to be cleaned, meaning that implicit values have to be filled, and then rows with empty values have to be removed. Then protocols and IP addresses need to be encoded, so a numerical mapping has to be created for these features. And then numerical features, everything except for entropy, has to be normalized to just scale the features for dataset accuracy. Now we come to the results parts. Usually accuracy is like the main metric used to be looked upon when analyzing machine learning results, but I have presented some more metrics. From this, we can see that random forest classifier did the best. The second best was by extra trees classifier, which uses a similar bagging algorithm like random forest, but it uses random splits instead of the best ones. Now, when we come to extreme gradient boosting algorithm, the third one, it's actually ironic. Yesterday, I was tuning the parameters of this algorithm, and I managed to increase the accuracy of this algorithm up to 91%. So in reality, this algorithm should be the best on this graph, but I just couldn't update the slides in time. And last is the Gaussian naive Bayes distribution classifier, which performed the poorest because it uses an assumption, a naive assumption, that features are independent and that they follow a normal distribution, which is just not applicable to network packets because most of the features are interconnected, like IP addresses, timings, packet sizes, and so on, and they usually don't follow normal distribution. To conclude our research findings, so even though the accuracies were not impressively accurate, we can say that entropy and HTTP metadata can be used as valid features for malware detection. However, to increase the accuracy and for future research, we need more features to add to the dataset, like more timing-based features to think about packet bursts, maybe flow durations, also include other protocol metadata such as DNS, SSL, and TLS, and so on. And also the entropy probability calculation can be variated a little bit. So yeah, and for future research, it would be great to simulate. We didn't have enough time to simulate worm cookie in laboratory environment, which is necessary to gather more sample data and arrive at more conclusions, and also explore more malware types so that it is not only for one specific malware, but for example, a malware family or so on. These are the references used for visuals, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you. With this, I would like to open up the questions from the audience. Raise your hand. All right, while the audience is warming up. So about the malware that you were analyzing, did you analyze, I presume that you analyzed the command and control channel traffic, and it's unencrypted, or it's encrypted?
It is encrypted.
It is encrypted?
Yes.
And since you were calculating the Shannon entropy, so the higher the entropy, that pretty much means it's encrypted traffic, right?
Yes, mostly it's encrypted, and because it uses some maybe advanced algorithms, it doesn't just send beacons to malicious servers in regular intervals. It might use some irregular intervals, which also mess up with timings and might confuse analysts by which use just regular timing checks.
And we have a question. I was already getting ready for the next one. I have a lot of questions written down.
Could this methodology be also used in combination with prior methodologies to practically improve in a practical manner the accuracy of detecting such?
Yeah, so this research kind of, its purpose is to encourage to improve IDS systems. So I have used several IDS systems in my practical experiences, and most of them work simply on predefined rules and basically on predefined rules. So it would be great to somehow implore this research inside these IDSS systems, or create some maybe joined system. Well, basically, apart from the rules, also to check for live network flow data and parameters that can help the rules to stronger amplify that whether something is malicious or not, and not to leave it for analysts to whether it's a false positive or not.
All right, so you were using a set of machine learning algorithms to analyze. I presume those are, to my best knowledge, I'm not the expert here, those are the supervised. So how did you label the traffic here? What was your approach for label data?
So this is a good question. We used, we downloaded the shared PCAP files from network traffic analysis. So basically, we knew what to look for when we first analyzed this traffic. So when we got the PCAP file, at first we don't understand what is malicious, what is not, but with help of some description and further analysis, I created some filters to basically label the data, which one is malicious and which is not, based on various parameters like from simple IP addresses to malicious servers and some others, but basically based on IP addresses.
All right. There's one last question in the last seconds. You have about 10 seconds to ask the question.
Very quick one. So what is the time interval for this net flow capture? So what is the time interval used for the analysis?
I believe it's like, it was less than 10 minutes or so, the research one. Yeah.
All right, with this, your 10 minutes are over. Thank you. Thank you so much. With this, thank you for being a very attractive audience. And this session is over, and I will see you at the coffee break and for the closing session. Thank you so much.